Alright, well, hello everyone, my name is Jeremy, I'll be the chair for the round, and I think Alright, I'll be timing your debate, so you will hear a ring at the first and the 6th minute. You indicate that, you indicate the order of vector times. So please keep your eyes within the vector time for the first 6 minutes. At the 7th minute, the bell will ring twice, and at the 7th minute and 3-second mark, the bell will ring 3 times to signal that your speaking time is over and that you'll stop taking note of your speech. With that out of the way, on the motion of, let me pull out the motion. On the motion of, this House believes that the use of unforgivable curses, even in cases of extreme necessity or self-defense, should remain criminalized with the maximum penalty available in the real world, calling upon Prime Minister to open the debate. Here.
Unforgivable curses spells that can create irreversible damage and can cause physical harm, and even it results to death, not just the death of the person you're offending, but the death of the people around them. Extremeness here refers to dire need, and self-defense means protecting oneself from harm. Remain criminalized here is it means to continue to get against the law, and maximum penalty here is the most severe penalty, which is the death penalty. In the real world, we refer to the fictional world, the world that we live in right now, fantasies aside. Unforgivable curses, ladies and gentlemen. There's something bad, there's something irreversible. When you say expelliarmus to someone, it can be affected by your mental state, it can be affected by your physical state, and we don't know how will you carry out these unforgivable curse. There's no guarantee that your unforgivable curse can be of a certain limit. For instance, if you want to protect yourself against someone who is potentially harming you, and you want to use this unforgivable curse, and if you say expelliarmus, you're not 100% sure that this curse will only apply to the person you're attacking. It can be applied to everyone else around you, and it can cause a lot of societal impact. Because why? There's no guarantee. And our side is here to give you many alternatives other than unforgivable curses. Because unforgivable curses, there's something non-professional, there's something driven by emotions, and there's something we cannot guarantee. Because everyone is human, and when they do something, they do it driven by their emotions, driven by what they're feeling at the moment, and they will be regret it, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, moving on to my first substantive is that we don't know what can come up from this unforgivable person. It roots back to the guarantee that we have when we use this curse against others. And as I've said before, time and time again, it is driven by anger. When we are facing something and we only feel the need to attack them, we don't think, why? Why are we attacking them? And this unforgivable curse is one of the main ways someone can hurt others. Not only hurt others, but hurt the people around them. And this will go against their goal, which is to attack the person or to self-defend themselves. And if they want to defend themselves, they should do it not at the risk of the people around them. And unforgivable curses here, they're not the best way to defend yourself. And for instance, in Hogwarts, they have a subject called Defense Against Dark Arts. And these dark arts here are the unforgivable curses. Why? Because unforgivable curses, there's something that we must fight against. against. They're so dangerous to the point that even Hogwarts have a subject to protect themselves against these curses, and if we want to use these curses to fight against others, even if we want to use it for self-defense, we cannot guarantee that it will be effective, because why? The societal impact that these curses have is humongous, it's significant. Ladies and gentlemen, if we use this curse, we are risking the lives of others. We are risking the lives of people around us, and it goes against ethicality. Why? Because when we want to defend ourselves against someone else, we would think thoroughly. Because these unforgivable curses, there's something that we cannot reverse. Therefore, the effect is huge. And this does not only affect the society, it affects the environment. Because the environmental impact that unforgivable curses bring to the table, they're humongous. They affect the nature, and this will lead to more corruption in terms of the greeneries and everything around them, and it needs for maintenance. For example, Hogwarts, they ban the use of unforgivable curses, even for teachers. Teachers, when they see someone getting bullied, for instance, he saw Draco bullying Harry Potter, and his first instinct was to use an unforgivable curse. However, this is not something morally just. Why? Because he got scolded, because Hogwarts have their own plan to ban even teachers from using unforgivable curses on their students, ladies and gentlemen. Because why? This is morally unjust, and it does not solve anything. If we use this unforgivable curse, what will we attain from it? We will attain regret. We wouldn't attain the lesson, and when we attain this regret, we cannot change. We cannot change what we have done. Therefore, our side wants to put the death penalty. Why? We're stressing the death penalty. Why? Because using unforgivable curses can put the life of others at risk, and we can kill thousands by using this unforgivable curse. Therefore, the death penalty should be implemented on the users of unforgivable curses. Alternatives other than unforgivable curses are self-defense. Maybe we can learn martial arts, for instance. We have taekwondo, we have karate, and when we are defending ourselves against other people, we can only attack our attackers. We're not impacting the people around us. And that is what is the most important thing, is that when we consider these alternatives, we can consider a world where we won't affect other people negatively. We can also leave it to the authority, in the sense that sometimes when we are facing through all of these stuff, in dire need, our first instinct is to call someone who has the legal rights to fight back against these criminals going against you. Ladies and gentlemen, our side has stressed on time and time again that the usage of unforgivable curses is something that we cannot guarantee. And when we cannot guarantee, and we cannot have this guarantee, then we should not risk it. We should not risk it for the life, we should not risk it for the betterment of the environment, for the betterment of the society. Ladies and gentlemen, stand with justice. Stand with the side of
my speech will for the opposition.
Judge, if someone were to murder and do unforgivable acts like torture to a loved one of yours, would you consider these three unforgivable curses as an act of justice? First of all, what are cases where this would be used in the first place? This would be used in cases where, for example, murder or torture and more were to happen either to you or to anyone in this situation. One primary stakeholder in this debate: the minority of people who need to use these unforgivable curses in cases of self-defense or anything at all. So, what are we trying to achieve in this debate in the first place? We're trying to achieve an environment and a society where safety is actually ensured with the use of these curses, and we're trying to and we're actually going to prove how these curses aren't so bad at all, and how it actually won't affect the environment or the people around it, as what she said just now. So, Insofar we prove that the use of these curses are to ensure a safer future society, we win this debate. Two arguments for today. First argument, benefits of being able to use this in extreme cases, for example, murder or torture, as I said just now. With using these three curses, we are to ensure a world where safety is guaranteed. Why is safety guaranteed? Like I said, it ensures safety because when someone were to use this in defense, it makes other people scared to commit the same acts. If someone were to commit unforgivable acts like murder or torture to a loved one of yours, or even to you, and you were to use, for example, one of these three curses like death, people who were intending to do the same won't do it in the end as a result because they know what consequences could actually come in the first place. Now, this is exclusive to us because on their side, the consequences, yeah, it may be death penalty, but on our side, we do have like torture methods, and we actually do have like we do have death overall. So no, thank you. So harms of remaining criminalized in the first place, harms of not being able to use these three curses, and why is it so bad? People will be hurt, justice won't be served. If she was to say that the death penalty is good enough to punish someone for doing unforgivable acts, let me clarify that the death penalty is usually used when the criminal has already done the actions. However, if we were to use these curses, it prevents bad things from happening, not when it has already happened. When criminals they get caught for doing unforgivable acts, usually these acts tend to already have happened, and then they will serve the death penalty. But if we were to use these three curses, we could actually prevent it from happening in the first place, and safety can actually be guaranteed all around. Because, like I said, people will look at this and will look at the consequences of what may come. If they were to even try, and that's why safety is ensured on our side compared to theirs. So next, I would like to say that justice can't be served even if you were to use the death penalty in the first place, because like I said, these acts have already happened. But if you were to use these three curses, these acts wouldn't happen in the first place, and it ensures a society and an environment where people actually aren't going to be harmed and where people actually are safe. Just because of the fact that these unforgivable curses aren't remain as criminalized, and they can actually be used in terms of self-defense. So next, they might talk about how these curses can be exploited, but I'll tell you why they won't. These curses won't be exploited because, again, if they were to remain criminalized, it means that someone were to watch over them. For example, the government, or for example, anyone in charge, or anyone that has the power to do so. Which means that if it's always under watch and people were to exploit it, that wouldn't happen in the first place, because then the punishment of actually exploiting it would actually be the death penalty. Instead, or you could just use the three curses to punish the person that has been exploiting it. Because the motion or the info slide clearly states that it was talking about remain criminalized, which also means that it's not just anyone that's just watching over these things. And
earlier you said that exploitation won't occur because there will be people watching over these curses, but that's not what the motion stated.
Okay, it might not be what the motion stated, but the motion did state that it did state something about remaining criminalized, which means that someone with power did criminalize them in the first place. And this someone isn't just any regular someone. This someone is probably someone with power, for example, the government, or anyone with power in general. So exploitation wouldn't even happen on our side, and it's unrealistic for it to happen. So what have I provided you in this debate and in my speech overall? I provided you the why the harms are not likely to actually happen in the first place. I provided you how we can actually ensure a safer environment and safer society where the use of these unforgivable curses isn't that bad at all. And I also provided you I also provided you the fact. That the death penalty itself isn't so good in punishing someone in terms of justice, especially when these three curses could just be released overall.
What team government tried to persuade you with was the notion that an eye for an eye is a justifiable and logical reason to do so. And we on team government do not contradict, do not disagree with that. What we disagree with is the usage of unforgivable curses. Why? Because as my previous speaker has already mentioned, unforgivable curses affect more than just the individual, it affects the whole society. Now, before I move on into my substantive, I would like to rebut several points made by the opening government. First, they mentioned about how safety can be guaranteed overall. However, as my previous speaker has already mentioned, safety is not ensured. The world in which the unforgivable curses exist in the Harry Potter universe, these unforgivable curses affect more than just the individual. This means that when someone is in another room altogether, but just because they are close in proximity with them, they can be negatively impacted. They can be negatively influenced by the unforgivable curse, and therefore we have to understand that these unforgivable curses has irreversible damage, can cause permanent physical and mental harm, but also can cause death. Let's take it into perspective. Yes, you are going to kill one person, but by extent, you are also going to harm a lot of other people for yourself. That's what you have to imagine that. And besides that, there are multiple other alternatives, as my previous speaker has also mentioned, to these unforgivable curses. When someone is trying to harm you, your first thought should not be to kill that person immediately using an unforgivable curse. Rather, what you should be doing, as my previous speaker has mentioned, is using the defense against dark arts. They study defense against dark arts in Hogwarts for a reason, ladies and gentlemen, to defend themselves in this scenario so that they do not turn to unforgivable curses to protect themselves. And there is a reason why. Why? Because unforgivable curses are dangerous and affect more than just one individual. And by extension, we also are proving to you that education in general is a non-extreme way of protecting themselves. They try to tell you that, oh, we have to, by showing that unforgivable curses is, that you can use unforgivable curses to kill that person, that is justifiable. However, education can help in a way that it tells people not to do it as well. When you learn in school that you cannot kill someone, you will eventually not choose not to kill someone, because from a young age you are being taught that, oh, okay, I shouldn't be killing anybody, and therefore I won't be killing anyone. That is all for my rebels. Now I'll be moving on into the policy for team government. We believe that you will be charged with death penalty if you choose to use unforgivable curses first before any other curse. Which means that yes, you can use unforgivable curses. However, you must use another form of self-defense first before eventually turning and resorting to unforgivable curses. So if you're using anything that you learn in defense against self-arts, before doing the unforgivable curses, you are still being free in the eyes of the law. Now, unforgivable curses, as my previous speaker has already mentioned, is very unethical for many reasons. And one of them is going to be my substantive for today, which is the philosophical impacts of believing that an eye for an eye is justifiable. Now, using the unforgivable curses can give people the fulfillment of murder. Yes, they are protecting themselves, but at the same time, they're exploring that side of death. And this is very dangerous. As we know, for example, drugs. Drugs is very bad for us, obviously. But when you first get the taste, when you get the first touch on drugs, you will eventually want to continue doing drugs because drugs is addictive. In the same way that murder psychologically is addictive and you will always want to have more of that. An example of this is, since we're talking about fictional, an example of another fictional character is Coriolanus Snow. Coriolanus Snow, already known as President Snow, first entered the Hunger Games and committed murder, which made him enjoy murder and by extent continue to create and exploit young children in the Hunger Games that he chose to continue because of the taste of death. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to understand that it is very much unjust and unethical for you to choose to continue using unforgivable curses in this world. Now, let us weigh the argument that we have so far. Team government believes that unforgivable curses give the people a form of self-defense. However, we on team government have already proven to you that there are other alternatives to self-defense that are not unforgivable curses. Besides that, we have also already told you that unforgivable curses are justified if they are not the first thing that they resort to in the policy. Now, the point of contention in this debate in which we win is the moral value that we uphold compared to team opposition. We on team government believe that we should not kill, what you're doing is fighting fire with fire. And at the end, what happens is a bigger fire. Nothing is ever resolved in that scenario. Yes, one fire may be eventually output, but the other fire grows to become a bigger and more dangerous force in the society, which we cannot have, ladies and gentlemen, as I have already proven to you with the philosophical impacts of this motion. Now, comparing that to, yes, and we win this moral value point of contention because we show you that there are other alternatives that you can do in this case. Yes, we do take into consideration that people might not be 100% safe. We do bear that burden. However, we're also protecting other people in the environment and the security of the society and the community around them. And that is what we as government value the most. So, ladies and gentlemen, what team opposition has tried to give you hypotheticals, we have given you real realities of what people actually do with murder and when they get the taste of murder. When team opposition tries to give you theories, we have given to you the real life impacts and the real life examples of when these things happen and what it affects. There's only one side that you can trust for the future of the law and security, and that is team opposition, government.
To look at a bigger picture is to know that the minority of people who use it for self-defense is more important overall than they can defend themselves against those who exploit. So, I would like to reaffirm our stance in which our goal is to ensure that people have a good option to defend themselves. Even if people exploit, we tell you it can be prevented. Why so? Because I will tell that later in my arguments. But then again, Judge, I would like to go on with my rebuttals first. So first, in my rebuttals, they say that curses can affect other people around. But nowhere in the info slide did they say that these curses have a wide range. Because overall, curses, they're supposed to be targeted to one person only, known as a curse. A curse is when a curse is being projected out to somebody else, that nowhere in the motion did it specify that it can explode into the people near the proximity of the victim. No, it never stated that, because they say that if somebody is near proximity to the actual victim. Then when somebody puts the curse onto them, the guy next to him will get it. Nowhere in that thing they stated it, because that thing is not physical. The curses are not physical. Curses are mental. When you are mentally targeting someone, you are mentally targeting for that person only. That is supposed to be specified here, Judge. So then you also state how it will kill more people on your side. Understand that people who try to defend themselves also die. So that's why we say that at least the people who use it for the right, at least they can actually use it well, they can actually use it, because your side is saying that these people who self-defense, even in critical moments, they will also get the worst punishment you get, even death by the government itself. So then I would like to say that government, yes, about it affects more people in proximity. Judges, please find it relevant for these unforgivable curses to be used. One needs to be worthy. For someone to learn this curse, as normal in Harry Potter, curses don't come within you. Curses come within how the effort you put into you actually wanting to learn that spell. So basically what I'm saying is that for these unforgivable curses, for you to learn it, you need to be worthy. Or else the unforgivable curses, the access, it won't allow you to use the unforgivable curse. So then, my other rebuttal is that, the speakers say that, you will learn in school, and you will learn something about martial arts or something. Okay, then why do murderers still exist today even though you learn at school, you learn a lot of fighting styles, but still, murderers nowadays, they have guns. You come close to them, they shoot you, you die. That's the normal situation of dangers in our real world here, ladies and gentlemen. So okay then, also consider the fact that some people don't have education enough to education to actually know whether it's wrong or right. Right. So then, this speaker, Prime Minister, also say that there are better ways such as martial arts. Maybe people know martial arts, but where they can also include weapons like guns. So are you trying to say, you're going to learn martial arts your whole life, you don't get to use the curses because you're not worthy of self-defense, and even if you self-defense yourself, you will still get punished. That's what they say. And even if you learn martial arts, you come close to them, boom, you die because you get shot. So then you're not including some people. They can't even afford martial arts trainings. So do they get left out? It's not even relevant to this motion, people. So then we say that these martial arts trainings, even in the Harry Potter world, it wouldn't affect a single thing. These curses, even when you come into proximity, they will just curse you into die your whole life. So then I like to go with my argument, sorry if I get too much. But first, prior to the minorities, if they are in such a bad situation, then they use these curses, they get the worst punishment the world has to offer. So why is this bad? Because self-defense, in our side, matters the most, because when you're self-defending, you have a reason to self-defend in the first place. And when you're self-defending, that guy, the attacker has to be so serious that you use these curses just to stop how dangerous that guy is. So then, picture this. You're running away from a killer, and then the killer wants to kill you so badly, brutally, but then you use the curse, and then the next morning you're getting punished, you're dying either way. So that means somebody just died for no reason. That is just bad overall. So then we tell you that instead of looking at the people who exploit and get punished, look at the people who almost died and get destined to die anyways, because they try to defend themselves, and when people get to know about it, they will still die because you still want to. Yes.
How sure are you that the use of these unforgivable curses will only affect one person and not the environment? Because there are cases that they affect everything around them.
So you're saying that this, I already stated earlier why this spell, which is a curse, it only affects one person, because curse is a mental thing, it's not a physical thing. You say like it's some kind of boomerang, you say it's kind of, you say it's like some kind of bomb or something that affects other people. Or maybe you're also trying to say that when people get insane from one of those spells, that they will attack some people. Even though if that's relevant, we'll tell you that's not true. Because when somebody self-defense, when it's about the other people, the self-defense the self-defender was the right, was the brains to actually self-defend, will stop that guy, the attacker, from still breathing. So then we tell you, this will result in more deaths. If you give penalty to this, because we tell you that these people are defending themselves because they're close to death. Motion states that even when the victims are in a bad situation, are you seriously saying that if you're in the brink of death and then you want to self-defend, but then remember, oh, if I still use this spell, I'm still gonna die tomorrow because the world doesn't want me to use this spell because they think it's so damn dangerous. So then I would like to go with my way. Because opening government wants to stop these curses because it can kill people brutally. All says it's worth it for self-defense. Your side is implying uselessness to self-defense because you can die even when you try to defend yourself. There are benefits of how people will take interest on people dying because of self-defense by the people. So we're all about self-defense, they're all about killing. That summarizes the debate for the opening side. I raise my case and please.
Honorable Chair, esteemed panel, and attentive House. Good afternoon. As member of government, it is my pleasure to extend the case for the government bench on the motion. This House believes that the use of unforgivable curses, even in cases of extreme necessity or self-defense, should remain criminalized with the maximum penalty available in the real world. Now, before I continue with my extension, I would like to begin by clearly outlining our bench strength. Now, understand that the opening government has already spoken about how unforgivable curses are done because of emotions and how it could impact the society and how it could cause regret. And the government is simply saying that when these actions are irreversible, the person who does the action will face consequences. And as the backbench, we fully support the case, but we believe that there is a crucial dimension that has been underexplored, which is that they have no authority. Now, before I continue, I would like to rebut the opening opposition. They have mentioned that it could benefit for extreme cases and safety is guaranteed when these people use unforgivable curses. And they also have mentioned that someone might commit unforgivable action, so that's why they use these unforgivable curses. But how are you so sure that our individuals' safety is guaranteed? What you said earlier when my second speaker, POI, is that will there be people watching over other people to make sure that exploitation won't occur? So it is simple. Opening opposition has misjudged the motion. What the motion is simply stating is that once curses are done, it will be criminalized. On the other hand, when it's not criminalized, it will be free for everyone and even anyone, even criminals, to use it. Now, I would like to continue with my argument. Now, understand that on our side, we believe that the use of unforgivable curses, even in cases of extreme necessity or self-defense, should remain criminalized with the maximum penalty available in the real world because they have no authorities. I believe that they should remain criminalized because they don't have the power to use these curses. Now, understand that these people, they don't have the authorities to use these curses, even in cases of extreme necessity or even self-defense. There are many alternatives for you to use. They could call or even ask for the higher-ups. We get it. You have been provided with the ability to use these curses, but it does not mean you should actually do so. I bring you a new perspective of a new stakeholder, which is the higher authorities. What's the point of having policies, judges, people in that sector? What's going to happen to them if you use these curses? If we live in a world, where you who have this power use these curses, if you would like for these people to be able to use these curses, might as well not have the higher authorities. We, the government, have given the higher authority to do this job because it's their job. Now, understand that when these people have nothing to do since their job has been overtaken by these normal people who uses these unforgivable curses, the general public, their job security is at stake. Why I say this? Because the wrong people are doing that. Someone else is doing their job. They are involved in their career.
When job security is at stake, it's more likely that these higher authorities will lose their job and increase in unemployment rate. Now, opposition, you make this decision where you say they shouldn't be criminalized, but we, the government, will have to face these consequences. What if this were to happen to you? What if you're the higher authority and you're in danger because these people decided to use this unforgivable curses? Now, I would like to talk about the impact. Now, understand that in the short term, it might be the fastest solution to overcome this issue, to deal with criminals. But in the long run, it might affect our stakeholders, which is the higher authorities. Now, let me explain why our bench is superior to opening government and defeats others. While opening focus on how this action is irreversible, they miss the deeper analysis of how they have no rights to use these curses. And our extension provides a broader or more urgent case by introducing the crucial aspect on how higher authorities should be focused on. In conclusion, we have proved to you why our side, opposing government, matters most, and we urge you to prefer our bench for these reasons. Thank you,
Good morning, everyone. Today, I, as a member of opposition, will do three things. First, rebut the government. Second, rebut our case of side. And then, our argumentations. Ladies and gentlemen, understand that this unforgivable curse is, in case of extreme necessity or self-defense, we believe that it should not criminalize because of a few reasons. Now, let's look at today's status quo, ladies and gentlemen. Today's status quo, we criminalize in today's status quo, we didn't just look at the consequences, ladies and gentlemen. Instead, we look at two things. First, three things. First, their consequences. Second, their the purity of their intention. And lastly, their consciousness, ladies and gentlemen. So first, I would like to rebut the government side. The government side said that it is wrong to use it for self-defense, but we say that it is not wrong because when they are using it for self-defense, we say that they doesn't have the consciousness. They don't have time to think what they are doing, what they should do. So they just use these unforgivable curses, ladies and gentlemen. So we say that even in today's status quo, in today's law, we didn't just look at the consequences. Instead, we look at their consciousness, and we say that those who use self-defense, they doesn't have the consciousness. They shouldn't be criminalized with the maximum penalty. Second, they said about this person could just use another self-defense, for example, martial arts. Ladies and gentlemen, we say that the martial arts is not guaranteed to help us defend ourselves. Let's say that what if the attacker is using the unforgivable curses? So by using martial arts, it is not helping you anyway because the attacker has these unforgivable curses as a weapon. So a strong weapon and a weak defense is not going to work, ladies and gentlemen. Next, they say that it will cause exploitation. What if it will cause exploitation? We say that, ladies and gentlemen, this motion is about in cases of extreme necessity or self-defense. So we say those who exploit should be criminalized, but those who use it for extreme necessity should not, ladies and gentlemen. So now, let's look at our own arguments, ladies and gentlemen. We say that in the closing of the session, we provide you three things to look at: consequences, the purity of intention, and the consciousness. Now, we say that this use of unforgivable curse is important in one thing that is meant. We say that it is the necessity of protecting ourselves. Why? Ladies and gentlemen, like what you see that in today's debate, for self-defense, we need to learn And those in magic schools like Hogwarts itself, there's this dark arts defense classes. So we say that this teacher is allowed to use these unforgivable curses for an example. But we say that in Harry Potter, there are teachers that use this unforgivable curse for an example. We say that it's important for the students to become more understand. But we say these curses shouldn't be used on human. We say it should be used on animals. It should be used on animals so that the consequences is not that bad. And we say if you want to use these curses on human, we use it on those we use it on criminal person, so that the consequences is not bad because the criminalism is unforgivable curses. So we say, why is it important? Because to make the students understand that we need the real life examples, so the teacher needs to give it. Because in Harry Potter, it's all about the mental. This spell is all about the mental, and you can't learn the spell without the true example in front of your eyes. So we say that teaching is okay, but we look at their consequences, which we say we use the animals or the criminals. Yes.
So how can you ensure the safety of these unforgivable curses that will only happen to the animals and that the teachers will not explain?
Ladies and gentlemen, understand that this is a magic school and it is a teacher in a magic school. Of course, when we say teacher, before becoming a teacher, it is being trained to teach the students. So we say that this teacher will not exploit this unforgivable curse. Now, we'll look at the consequences. There are no bad consequences. The priority of intention is for teaching the students this self-defense, so that in their future, if they are encounter a situation where they are being attacked by a strong criminals with deadly weapons, for example, even the unforgivable curse, they know how to self-defend themselves with this kind of situations because they have the real life experience, ladies and gentlemen. So now we say that for the self-defense, those who use this unforgivable curse for the self-defense, out of the third things that we bring here, consciousness. So when we use it out of consciousness, that is when we say that it should not be criminalized with the maximum penalty, but we say it still needs to be criminalized, but not with the maximum penalty, because it is out of consciousness. Because even in Malaysia, in today's status quo, the laws we didn't just look at the consequences. Instead, we are debating in a room to decide what punishment should get, and we also look at the consciousness of the user of this unforgivable. And that's why we believe into this debate, closing of the session should win. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Respected judges, worthy opponents, and fellow debaters, I stand before you as the second speaker of the government side Today I'll be deepening the main point given by our first speaker, the member of government, and respond comprehensively to the arguments made by the opposing team. Through careful analysis, evidence, and logical reasoning, I will demonstrate why our case remains stronger and why the opposition's arguments fail to dismantle it. So first, let's move on to me deepening my member of government's arguments, which is her argument is not everyone should have the power to use these curses, even for self-defense, even if it's for self-defense. So unforgivable curses shouldn't even be a choice for an individual, even when they're in danger or even if it's used for their worst enemy. So what the opposition isn't understanding is that there are better, safer alternatives for individuals to use, like Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, which is under the martial arts, and it's able to protect us. The other option is that they will be able to alert the higher authorities whose jobs are to protect us. Alright, so now I'll be proceeding to my rebuttals, which are the arguments made by the opposing team. So the first argument made by the first speaker is that there will be people regulating these curses and they will too be guaranteed with safety. Ladies and gentlemen, like my first speaker, the member of argument has stated earlier, with deep analysis of all of the arguments made by the DLO are all based off of the false accusations. Understand that our side has shown you the complete opposite. Safety is not guaranteed because once we agree with the opposition and let everyone have the right to use these unforgivable curses whenever they feel like they're in danger or whenever they want, what if we were to let criminals have the right to use these curses? What do you think will happen to our world? Alright, so that is my question for the DLO. Thank you. My first rebuttal my second rebuttal for the second speaker of the opening opposition is that he said that curses like this can be used for self-defense. So yes, curses like this can be used for self-defense, but let me redefine what unforgivable curses actually means. So there are three main unforgivable curses, like you stated earlier. Each is a torture method used for bad people, and these curses is not and will never be something okay or something right to use against people, because understand that one of these curses can bring death towards someone. So now I'll be stating my main reasons why it is just not right to have someone use these deadly curses against anyone.
Why? Earlier you said that there are other options to self-defense other than the curses, as in you said that you can use martial arts. So how do you use martial arts against modern weapons like guns and other guns?
Understand that, like I stated earlier, if you are unable to protect yourself from harms yourself, you are able to call the higher authorities. We have police provided for our own safety. Am I right? Okay. So back to what I was saying earlier. Now, ladies and gentlemen, understand that what the motion here along the opposition already said. Existing torture methods and death sentences are better alternatives regarding this motion. So why are we opting for such a drastic change when we have better options right now?
Right. So you say that we can call the higher authority. Ladies and gentlemen, if there's a gun in your hand, do you have time to call the authority?
Here. I'll get back to you later. So to summarize my point earlier, our side has clearly stated why agreeing with this motion is the wiser choice, alright? Agreeing with the motion is the wiser choice because it protects all of our citizens altogether. Why? Because we have not only gave you a strong point, we have put you in the stakeholders' positions and showed you why disagreeing with this motion affects our stakeholders tremendously. Okay? So what they said earlier is that would you rather have a world where authorities like police are here to save us, or have a world where anyone, like literally anyone, can just kill you whenever they want? Thank you so much. Here's my case.
Thank you, for the fine speech. Calling upon Mrs.
Martin Luther King once said, "An eye for an eye leaves everyone blind," and that is why this motion should not be passed. Okay, why does Martin Luther King say this? Because if we want to give the maximum penalty, which is death, as the government said, it would just kill someone who was killed. It's just the same argument as, oh, if you kill a killer, the number of killers would not increase. It would be the same. I, as the opposition whip, will first be reporting the government side and tell you why our case wins and explaining why the closing government tops over everyone else. Now, first of all, I would like to say that the closing government is contradicting the opening government. Well, the closing government is saying that it can't be used at all. The opening government is saying it can be used if you try something else. So that is why the closing government contradicts the opening government. Now, as our side has said consistently, we do not have any time to call the authorities. As the POI said by the member of the opposition, they have said that, oh, if you have a gun to your head, will you be able to call the authorities? No. We can also tie back this debate to a real world scenario, which is America. This world is just like saying, oh, we're going to ban the use of guns. Okay. The government is saying that we can practice all sorts of we can learn self-defense in order to protect ourselves. But what our side is saying is that the self-defense will not be effective because, as the member of opposition has said, that what if the criminals themselves they use the unforgivable process? What will you do then? Because, as the opening opposition has said, that it's about mental, it's not physical. So when you get hit by a curse, you will die instantly, no matter what self-defense technique you use. Okay. Anyways, back to the opening government. The opening government is talking about defense against the dark arts. Well, we, the closing government, is telling that how would you defend against these dark arts when you don't even know what they are? Of course, you know their name, but you know what they do, but you've never seen anyone experience it. That is why we are saying that it is necessary for the teachers to be able to teach these students about these dark arts. Since if you've read the Harry Potter series, there was a professor who demonstrated these curses so that students can learn. What are the effects on this? Harry Potter got hit by one of these unforgivable curses, and he was able to resist the temptation. That's why we should let the teachers teach it without being criminalized. And the government said has not specified who will be criminalized. So what if an infant or a toddler picks up a wand and uses the curse? They might be saying, oh, how will they learn the curse? Of course, they might have picked it up. Since children are very good imitators and they're very good learners because their mind is still developing. That is why they might pick it up and use it. Will you put them to death? Also, we're talking about the intentions. So if someone just uses an intention, use a unforgivable curse, but their intention was wrong, it would not work. So would you still charge them with death even if it doesn't work? Yes.
Earlier you said that even infants and babies who pick up wands, and you're saying that it's not okay for them to be able just because of that. But that just proves our points. Like all of these kids, they can just.
It's too long. Now moving forward to supporting my government. As you said before, my member of opposition has said that we need to focus. The government needs to specify who will get these consequences. guilty, who will take this punishment, who will take the max penalty. Also, now I would like to since we're talking about the teachers, we're talking about teachers. Teachers need to teach about these rights. Since the government has pressed so hard about the defense against the arts, of how you can use many curses. What I want to ask is that aren't all spells dangerous, such as Wingardium Leviosa? Wingardium Leviosa, it makes you fly up, and then you can go down. And then imagine if you do go down, then you would fall, and then you still die. So that is why all their definition is incomplete, and that is why we win this case. Now, moving forward, to expanding on my member of the system, it is said that it has already been stated that the teachers, that a teacher has already used these unforgivable persons to teach these students. They're teaching the students how to defend against them. So since the opposition wants to stress the importance of defense, wouldn't it be better for the teachers to teach how to defend against this, these unforgivable curses, so that they do not be vulnerable to this process. That's what we want to see today. Now, that I believe I have stated enough to provide closing the government completely trampled over the government's case, and that is why we win the debate. With that, thank you very much.
That demonstrates the debate when we cross the floor and shake hands. And just give us give the room for a moment, give us time to